Testing, testing. Hello. Hello, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be here today for this episode of Pursuit of Motion, a very special one. Now, if the trumpets haven't started playing in your mind, if the sirens of triumph haven't started letting off the warning signals, now is the time for them to be going. I'd like that to be your mental image because for me, this is a triumphant moment of success, weaving those things together. My name is Adnan, for those of you who don't know, and this is season 2 of my podcast, Pursuit of Motion. Now, most podcasts fail. 90%, I believe, of podcasts fail before their 10th episode. And on my 10th episode, I had one of my professors, Dr. Melanie McKeag, on, and we spoke about Internet of Things and AI. And it was nerdy and it was fun, and we got to talk about her journey. But really, now that I'm on episode, I believe 15, thank you. I know, congrats to me. No, really, it was a lot to get here, and that's where the triumph comes. Is because I've invested in some new equipment. I have decided how I want to approach this relationship with speaking with you, and I'm here and I'm better than ever. So I have a lot of Paper Chasers things that I'm excited to discuss. Paper Chasers Entertainment. As you can see, we've got the lovely new merch here. I've got a phenomenal team around me, and they designed some great stuff. You know, the first edition of Paper Chasers merch I designed, and it was at work, and I just was scribbling on paper. And I am no visual artist, frankly. Of my team, I would be the last that I would commission to draw a stick man. And I can actually draw a mean stick man. Matter of fact, on the screen here to the left, there's a picture of a stick man. You'll notice I'm perspiring a little bit. For those of you who've been out in Nova Scotia in the East Coast, it's humid. And as an Alberta boy, the humidity gets to me. But I'm already so far off topic. See, can't you tell I'm excited to be on a podcast? All I'm doing is talking. Welcome back, everybody. Paper Chasers Entertainment, Season 2. The Return. Anti-Evil. Thanks for your patience. I'm getting ahead of myself. I've got a new project coming out. Very soon. Matter of fact, 15 days from now. By the time you're hearing this, it's 2 weeks. Thanks for your patience is my new EP. It's 7 songs. And to me, I'm really excited to put this out. I think it's aptly named because it's been almost a year since my last release. Some of you listen to my music closely. Some of you have never heard my music. For me, my music is a very, very critical part of my life. I think it's just as integral to me as the blood flowing through my veins. And I know that maybe might be a little hyperbolic, but I've spent a decade perfecting my craft, and I'm very proud of it. Not in the sense of pride, in that I would fall for my music, but proud in the sense that when you cultivate your craft, you find that you can be intentional with it in ways you never would have believed early in your journey. And I think that's what makes it so important, is because of the intent. The project is called Thanks for Your Patience, and I'm excited for you all to hear it. We've got a music video coming, and it is, frankly, I don't want to talk too much now. You know, you and I, if you're listening to the podcast, you're in the know. So frankly, I could tell you almost anything. But this podcast, I'm going to save it for the next time, because you know how I like a cliffhanger. You're going to appreciate it. And the production value is through the roof, and that's going to be coming out next week. So keep your eyes peeled. But before the music video, before the EP, we're here today paper chasing on the Pursuit of Motion. And that's why I'm really excited to tell you about the next episode. My next guest, the first guest of season 2, will be none other than the new dean of Schwartz Business School, Lisa Watson. Now, I'm humbled by this opportunity. I know there will be a ton for me to learn. So it's going to be mouth closed, ears open. A woman is talking, frankly. And I'm excited for the prospect. I'm going to learn a few things. And hopefully we have a good rapport back and forth, where not only will I learn her values and her beliefs and what got her to that position, but she can use some of the things she's learned through her career to maybe impart some wisdom on me by prompting me to speak a little. So moving on from that amazing prospect, I mean, Dean of Business is something that when I first stepped foot on campus, I never would have dreamed to have the opportunity. And I think there are a lot of people who have questions that don't really understand the role or what she does for the community or how this is going to shake things up. And I think that is what I can really get to the bottom of in having a conversation. Now, before I move on past paper chasers, I think it's a good opportunity to thank our sponsors today. That would be myself. That would be myself. I've been bootstrapping all of this music and creative stuff for a lot of years. And so we just released our merch line. As I mentioned, this amazing new Paper Chasers tee. We've been working on our website and our designs. And I think that if there was ever a time to get paper chasing, to get in your bag, to take a look at what's going on in your life, what motivates you, what drives you, what you're working towards, who you want to be, and how you want to look when you get there, you'll find something on my website that's gonna take you to that place. You'll be supporting a small creator. You know, and frankly, it's dope. It is dope. I had a professor pull me to the side and be like, your shirt's amazing. What is that? And I had the great pleasure of saying, it's my business. And it's something that's almost in its second year of operation. And I think that's an exciting thing. So, I don't know, man. Hit like, subscribe, keep listening, and let's talk about some real stuff here. But thank you for your interest in Paper Chasers. I want to go on a little rant about a little societal thing that I've noticed that I really don't know if I'm in the wrong or on the right side of it. It's nothing too contentious, but I think it's important enough that it merits discussion. Then I want to discuss this amazing little contraption here that will get its due course. And then I want to talk about the challenges facing young Canadians. I want to give my opinion, my perspective on the different factors that are weighing into unemployment, because I read an article about it that really sparked my imagination, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Scentless versus scented versus smelly. All right, we need to have a conversation about this debate. Everywhere that I go, I'm seeing these posters, and it's been for years. This isn't a new thing, but I have a newfound voice, and it's only right that I bring it up now. I see these damn signs everywhere that say this is a scent-free environment. You shouldn't be wearing colognes. You shouldn't be smelling of anything, really, because we want to be courteous of our friends with allergies. We don't want to offend with scents that are overpowering. I get it. I'm Turkish. I'm Turkish born. I have been around many people wearing too much cologne. I myself am frankly quite often the culprit of wearing too much cologne. But when you buy Versace cologne, you put it on because it is a blessing. You know, I had a baby. I didn't have a baby, but I met a baby. And I had the great pleasure of being around a baby with some family recently. And that baby sparked up in delight whenever she smelled my Versace cologne. That baby was just, you know, baby's first experience with Versace. You know, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And so why is it that I invest my time, my hard work, labor, sweat, speaking of unemployment, into purchasing this cologne that I think is rather pleasant, just for these buildings to say that I can't wear them, to be courteous to our friends, and then the next man is allowed to come in and absolutely smell as if they have not experienced water in a few days. I'm not afraid to say it. People don't shower enough, particularly in this region where things are humid, and I'm getting sick of it. I think that we need to hold a standard that if I can't come in smelling like Versace Eros or King of Seduction, I have it up there. I don't know the brand, Alexander Hill or something like that. If I'm going to come in smelling like the nicest thing ever, and you're going to come in like you've been to the gym the last couple of days and haven't showered or changed, you're wearing pajama pants probably, slides probably, broccoli hair probably, 15 to 24 male probably. Girls are generally pretty good about being aware of their scent, and I think that is a good for society. Young men aren't, and I'm calling you out. I think that is my rant today, and it is my little dilemma or perhaps situation I'm presenting you as food for thought. How do we either A, prevent them? How do we build, not prevent, because I don't believe in, and we're going to get into this, but I don't believe in things being forced and crammed, but how do we design a society where people believe they have a duty not to show up smelling terrible? I treat smelling good like it was my job. And I think a lot of people do because we're courteous. And so, yeah, scentless versus scented versus smelly, I think I am the righteous one. And I rarely speak in terms of righteousness and good and bad because I think that's polarizing, and we definitely see that in the world. And I generally don't, but I think that I am on the one side. I don't necessarily have a problem with the scented or scentless side of the argument. I get it. If you have an allergy, scent is probably not the sort of thing that you appreciate, because I may smell like Versace. For you, Versace smells like death. So that is a very reasonable argument. But the argument of creating a more toxic environment nasally is just as much a discomfort, not as death, but as the prospect of facing it. Perhaps. Maybe that's a little harsh. But basically, I want you to take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, did I apply deodorant? And did I shower? And if you did, right on. Let's move on. This little beauty here. Now I'm going to overlay that onto the screen because this is the 21st century and you could probably do it more easily than I would. This is a beautiful invention by someone whose name I'm not going to share because I don't want to out her. I don't know who's going to listen to this or how long it's going to be on the internet. Hopefully forever. But forever is a long time. And frankly, I don't know if anything I've ever said is transhistoric quite yet. Except for these bars, you know what I'm saying? Check out my album, Glory, thanks for your patience. Transhistoric. That's going to live forever. But regardless, can protectors. Now, this beautiful contraption clips onto the top of a can. You'd think I'd have a can on me. You'd think I would have prepared better for that, but I wasn't. I'm not. This clips on top, and it prevents anything unsavory or unfriendly or downright hostile from being placed in your drink. And I think it's the sort of thing that if it was easily accessible, if they were free or $1, if it's the sort of thing you could go up to the bar and ask for one for free because of your safety. Now, of course, there are some limitations. People in the bars, they don't generally give cans, right? They'll give a glass, but that's nothing for an amazing innovation like this. The small clips on the back allow it to fit onto anything. So budding young entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs in this case, if she's not selling it, deserve their flowers. So young lady or older lady to me, probably young lady. My bones are starting to creak at this point. It's a real issue. Sorry to my older viewers. I know that hurt to hear. It's a new wave, man. The students who are New Year's, first years here in university, they were in the 7th grade when COVID happened. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was in the full-time labor market, and they were in the 7th grade. And so things are different, and I'm old now, and that's okay. Now, today, I want to talk about a challenge facing young Canadians, unemployment. While this handles a certain type of challenge, and it's a very valiant one, and it's a very strong community initiative that just deserves all the flowers. So just to bring it back, bottle or can protectors, that's an unofficial name. I muted the name because I am also tech savvy and I remember things. There you go. Today I want to tell you about what it was like for 1 in 7 young Canadians between 15 and 24 this year. Because 1 in 7, when you really think about it, is quite a lot of people. Right now, youth unemployment sits at about 14.5%, more than double the national average of 7.1%. That means that 1 in 7 Canadians between the ages of 15 and 24 is experiencing the toughest job market since 2010, if we set aside the pandemic years, which I think is only fair when scrutinizing what the government is doing and how the economy is doing, because that was an anomaly. Some may say a conspiracy, but we'll go with anomaly for now. The Financial Times recently ran a piece titled, "Canada's Youth Face Bleak Employment Market as Economy Slows." The article points to several explanations: American tariffs returning, a sharp increase in temporary foreign workers and students admitted after 2021, and broader economic forces like automation and artificial intelligence reducing demand for unskilled labor. But the issue isn't just economic, it's also social and political. Entering the job market during a downturn can have what's called from economists a scarring effect. Young people risk carrying the impact of this bad start through their careers. And when an entire generation sees their opportunities as bleak, political consequences naturally follow. Now, the Financial Times article, they do stop short of naming a single root cause, and I think that's fair. And instead, they sketch out a mix of political and economic factors. But it does, however, and on a hopeful note, despite all of the things that we've just discussed, projecting that unemployment pressures could ease by 2026, thanks to trade discussions with the US and a possible rethink of the temporary worker program. But here's where other voices complicate the picture. For example, Human Resources Director Canada points out that the sectors with the most youth, retail, food, accommodation, like hotels, are still expanding. Instead, they suggest Canada's problem isn't mass layoffs but slow hiring, and businesses remain active, but available positions are already filled. So this creates tension when we factor in immigration policy. Remember, in 2021, Canada admitted about 1.7 million foreign workers and students, and at the same time, job vacancies hit a decade low. That mismatch makes it hard for young Canadians to break into the labor market. And even across political divides, before people accuse me of being divisive, especially at a time like now, there's rare agreement on the issue. Leaders from the Conservative, NDP, and Liberal camps all recognize that temporary foreign worker programs may be squeezing opportunities for Canadian youth. That includes David Eby of the NDP in British Columbia, Mark Carney, the Liberal Prime Minister, and of course Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition. And hopefully I get an opportunity to speak with all three of those men. Once I spoke with Mr. Poilievre, and he was a rather charismatic speaker in person. I am a big fan of what Mark Carney's done since he's come into office, and I'm excited to see what the future looks like under the Natural Party of Canada. But I'm not averse to having a real strong political speaker up there scrutinizing and holding our Prime Minister account, as Pierre Poilievre has proven he's been able to do, like unlike anybody else in the Canadian field in a long time. So the federal government has already started making these changes. Speaking of Mark Carney and the things I think he's doing well, international student arrivals are being cut, and new restrictions cap low-wage foreign hires at 10% per workplace, 20% for high-demand sectors. So in cities where unemployment is 6% or higher, applications are refused overnight. So where does that leave us? Today, about 1.5 million people hold active work permits in Canada, with another 300,000 eligible. So that makes 1.8 million people eligible to work. And then the rest are there for student visas as well. So cutting new arrivals, which they've done, doesn't shrink the numbers overnight, which frankly, I think many of us think we need, but it does buy time, which allows the economy to adjust and for businesses to balance demand and for societies to catch up. Now that's the direction we're heading. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a step toward easing the pressure on young Canadians trying to find their place in the workforce. Now, anecdotally, I want to share a story because I believe there are many factors influencing the labor market, and I believe most of them to be cultural and political. In my view, and that's what you're getting for the rest of this topic, no more discussions of the article. Money is how people exercise power. That ties culture and politics to the economy, but as I'm not an economist, I generally view the market as serving us and not the other way around, which means essentially I don't blame the market so much as the people who pull the strings or those who participate mindlessly. The first main point that I believe impacts youth unemployment would be lack of trust for teens, or simply put, discrimination from the boomer generation. I grew up in a small northern Alberta town and was hired to work for a Tim Hortons when it opened up in October of 2014. And I was 13 years old and would just turn 14 in a month. So that meant I'd be working for 1 month illegally. But my attitude was fantastic and my interview was strong, so they took the risk with me, and I worked there for nearly 4 years. As an adult, I learned something about my coworkers who were majority Filipino. Every one of them, from the drive-through to the baker to the floor supervisor, had been a team leader or manager for at least 10 years back home before they could apply for the opportunity to move here. I, at 13 years old, was working alongside grown men and women who immigrated to this country with at least a decade experience in fast food. I was making $10 an hour and they were earning 12. I was very lucky to have been given the job considering the competition I was up against. Many of those people are still working hard at that same store today, over a decade later. I believe I am the exception to the rule nowadays. You see young folk working right out the gate less and less often. The circumstantial calculation just doesn't make sense, especially not for a generation that believes the youth now generally are irresponsible and lazy. If you could hire a skilled worker for basically unskilled work at practically the same cost as your local high schooler, it would take real trust and vision to invest in the student. And frankly, the political incentives have pushed that trust to the limit. Now, I believe in agency and I believe in responsibility and accountability. So next, I believe there's a real apathy amongst Gen Z. Many don't believe in the system. Many feel like it doesn't matter. Many are caught up in the traps that modernity has set, like drinking or drugs, gambling, adult entertainment, and the like. Many have successful boomer parents that either have been here for generations or moved to this country when the getting was good. Not that it isn't possible now, but times are tougher. So many people feel they just don't have to work, whether from entitlement, apathy, nihilism, or addiction. Further, the allure of easy money like crypto or online gambling are everywhere. Culturally, we grew up on entertainment that largely desensitized us to narcotic sales, if not straight up promoting it. I'm a hip hop guy. That's all I ever heard growing up. Not from my parents. They did not influence me into hip hop. I went my own way. My parents are very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very, I don't know, sweet and not like that at all. The word will come to me while I'm further in the rant.
The word Adnan was wholesome. Your parents are very wholesome.
And that's not something my parents had as a value, but that's something I discovered and consumed at a young age. Generally, politics has taken the position of religion, and that's not a value judgment, that's an observation. That means the guardrails that have, by historical standards, guided society are no longer the track we're all traveling on. Now, when I look at 1 in 7 of my friends, I can't exactly say one of them is a loser. I'm nearly 24. I've been cultivating my friend group with care. I have great friends and I'm blessed for them and I wish blessings upon them. But when I think about the life circumstance, decision-making skills, or conscientiousness, frankly, that many of the people I went to high school have, I would say some boomers have it right. And 1 in 7 just aren't really fit to thrive in our economy, where a little effort and gratitude could probably solve their problems. Young people just don't want to work. Duty is something we don't value as a society anymore. And how could you value duty if you aren't fulfilling your end of the bargain? Work isn't a punishment that the capitalists are forcing you into. Work is the object of purpose, and a life devoted to service of the people you love, the society you live in, to God, whatever form of God you believe in, as long as there's one. And even then, we can have a conversation about natural law and rationalism and liberalism, what brought us to this point. But by historical standards, that has been a major cornerstone of society. And I think you would be hard pressed to find someone who disagreed. And yes, of course, the material things that you're working to buy, because working those long hours suck and you need to reward yourself. And there needs to be some sort of gratification. And it's not all about duty, it's also about freedom. It's not all about give, 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 give. If you're going to give to society, that's when you get to take. That's when you get to take. Your job may not fulfill your purpose in life, and for many of us, it doesn't. I work hard and contribute in the workplace so that I know when I lay my head down at night, I've got job security and advancement opportunities, not because I love corporations or because they are what drives me. That's the priority of many of these temporary workers I mentioned earlier in the monologue. And for all of this and of that, the back and forth about immigration this, migration that, it's important to have agency. Your effort, your sweat, your election to pursue discomfort for the purpose of delayed gratification is why you at least present to the world like you care. Even if you don't, even if you don't, it's because I live a beautiful life with amazing people, and those people need support that I do what I do. And those people live in society, and so do you. And if I'm going to do what's best for my family, then as a byproduct, society will be a better place. If I'm doing my diligence to support and provide and to be kind and to teach them to be kind and tolerant and graceful and listen more than they speak, that's rich of me, but I'm working on it. I'm trying very, very hard. I approach every day saying, Adnan, you need to be a little bit more chill and less high strung, less ordered, and you need to listen more because everybody's telling you so much. And that's one of the most beautiful things about going to university, by the way. Later on, in another episode, we'll have a discussion of the merits of liberal arts. I know I've spoken about that to death with professors in the first season, but I think it warrants repeating. It definitely warrants repeating. But the thing about being able to discuss your thoughts with people that you know are intelligent and have different beliefs with you is very critical. It's very critical for society, to say the least. And I think that for some people who are lazy, who just don't want to work, who don't know what they want to do and would prefer to be paralyzed by indecision than to go out and try something, who don't want to do the worst thing, because, and I touch on this later, but it's very important to have both experience and education. One is nothing without the either, and so it's important to work to be a well-rounded person. You know, it's important to go and try stuff, and frankly, I think it's time for some people to grow up and accept the quote from the great Walter White: sitting around smoking marijuana, eating Cheetos, and masturbating does not constitute plans. It's so true, and it's so true. Plenty of people I've known who are unemployed complain about being bored. No, things aren't boring, you are. Responsibility is akin to adventure, and adventure is the greatest thing we can do as young people while we're still free. I get that staring at the wall in the Amazon factory as you scan packages for your first job is not that great. I will grant you that. But that's not why you do it. You're not doing it because it's great. You do it so that you can be a better version of yourself when that check hits. A tempered, disciplined, generous, and probably, frankly, underpaid version of yourself, but value comes with time under tension. Education and experience mean nothing without the other, and neither come fast. But lastly, though, and I think it's important to end it on this reality, is that I really believe when you grow the population by 4.7% in 1 year, 2021, you're bound to heat the economy and make things difficult for the least skilled or able. As was stated in the Financial Times article, younger workers do tend to bear the brunt of a slowdown in the labor market. With job vacancy at 2.7%, we need to assess which temporary workers are contributing, both to the economy but more importantly to society, and which should plan on building a stable life back in their own home country. Now, some may find that blunt, and others will resonate strongly. I believe that while I have no control over population movement and migration, I see that the government is conducting some change. It's painfully slow change, but change nonetheless. And I'm glad for that. If there was ever a time for somebody on the internet sharing a positive political outlook on the future, it's now. And with that, I'd like to conclude the first episode of Season 2, Pursuit of Motion. I am very humbled by the opportunity to speak to you, blessed by the opportunity. I think that what is more important than having something to say is saying it right. And I think that the older I get and the more intelligent I become through education and training and perspective, particularly perspective, and seeing how it could be and how others have it, and what sort of struggles and impediments could be facing me in my future, I have just learned to speak in a way that I feel I have something to share. And when I don't have something to share, I would prefer to listen. Tonight, I had something to share. So thank you for listening, and take care, everyone. Have a great night. Hey, and do not forget to hit that subscribe button. Do not forget it. Check it all out. New music, Pursuit of Motion, Paper Chasers Entertainment. Grab that new merch. I love you. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for rocking with me. Have a great night, folks.